Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already and drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second. It makes a massive difference in how this video performs in the YouTube algorithm. So in continuation of my talking about teams that I just feel like expressing thoughts about, I want to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies today because I think their position, their standing in the league is a little bit weird. So obviously the first thing to acknowledge is that going into this year, the Grizzlies are going to be playing 25 games without Morant due to the suspension. We shouldn't be too concerned about that just because obviously the Grizzlies have a history of performing pretty damn well without Ja. I do wonder if that's going to translate quite the same between Marcus Smart versus Tyus Jones, because the way that the Grizzlies would tend to win without Ja Morant is that Tyus would start and he was such a stabilizing force that he kind of just allowed everybody else on the team to succeed and the spotlight wasn't on him while he was still kind of being the orchestrator of everything else. Meanwhile, Marcus Smart is kind of just like chaos in a basketball player and not so much the reliable, steady force that Tyus Jones is. That's not me saying that he's a worse player because I don't think that's true, but it is a different player and there was a very specific context in which the Grizzlies were successful before. That said, because Marcus Smart is probably a better player than Tyus Jones, I do believe that it should ultimately still end up being a pretty good team without Ja Morant. An interesting team as well because like Marcus Smart and then you'd have Desmond Bane out there being a huge predicator of that offense, Jaren Jackson Jr. as well. It's definitely a weird mix of players. I definitely think Marcus over Tyus just kind of brings a weird factor to them, but they should still probably be a pretty successful team without Ja Morant, and I'm expecting them to be quite a successful team with him. The thing about the Grizzlies though, the reason why I say they have kind of a weird spot in the league is that they have somewhat stagnated in terms of being a top dog in the conference. The past couple of years, they have been a fairly highly seeded team, but not actually been like a real, true contending threat. They've kind of just been a contender in theory without actually being a contender in practice. Another big thing is Brandon Clark and what exactly he's going to bring to the table. I still think he has some injury stuff to work through, but if he's there, he could be a very, very big piece in their success. But I just feel weird about this team because they exist in this spot that's probably better than just a good playoff team, right? And I do think they deserve to get credit for the addition by subtraction of Dillon Brooks. As I have said time and time again, while I obviously have a significant amount of bias against Dillon Brooks because I just do not like him, I also genuinely believe that he is a bad basketball player who contributes negatively to his team. And the advanced stats absolutely back me up on that. Throughout his career, he has always been a net negative on the floor for his team, and that is especially the case in a playoff setting. He's even more significantly a net negative. And obviously, sure, they lost his perimeter defense, but Marcus Smart is, what, an inch or two shorter than Dillon Brooks, and he obviously has a reputation for being quite the capable defender on players that are much bigger than him. So I'm not really too worried about their defense falling off from losing Dillon. I think the defense will be fine. I'm really interested to see the dynamic between Marcus and Ja when they play together, because other than like, I guess when Kemba Walker and Isaiah Thomas were there, the Celtics haven't, and I guess Kyrie as well, I don't know, it's interesting because Marcus Smart he's obviously clearly had that role of being the secondary guard to like a really elite all-star level guard, but he's also changed quite a bit over the past few years of the Celtics not having that type of guy. Ever since they've moved on from Kemba Walker, it's been Marcus Smart as the lead point guard, the lead playmaker, and he's also become a little bit more ambitious in terms of his own offense, shooting the ball a little bit more, trying to create for his teammates as much as possible, and I wonder how he's going to be in a more reserved role. I also fear, in terms of what works around Ja Morant, the inconsistency of his three ball. Marcus is someone who can at times look like Ray Allen and at times look like Russell Westbrook, and depending on which player you get each day, that can really make a huge difference, especially given that Ja Morant, of course, is also not the most reliable outside threat. While he has has made strides to improve in that area, he is still not scaring anybody really from the three-point line, at least not over a large stretch, and especially not in a playoff setting. So that's an area of concern for sure. Desmond Bane is going to be sliding over to the 3 spot. I believe he's been a 2 to this point. I don't really have any fear that he can't play that position. He was already a pretty big 2 guard, and he's a very buff guy, tall enough, not really super tall, and obviously not very long, but I think he can handle that position fine, especially when you have Jaren Jackson Jr. roaming around the paint, another big body, whether it be Steven Adams or Brandon Clark. So ultimately, he should be perfectly fine there. Yeah, I mean, they just kind of are really good, but not good enough. That's I guess the position that they exist in. And you know, you could rely on some internal improvement. Maybe Jaren Jackson becomes a little bit more of an offensive threat. That's an area where he's probably disappointed a little bit in his career. He's had his moments of being a real scoring threat, and he's definitely still a positive offensive player. I'm not trying to imply otherwise, but it kind of has that like Bam Adebayo factor to him where like, I don't know if I want this guy to give me more or less. I just know that I want him to give me something a little bit different. And Desmond Bane brings plenty of offense. Ja Morant obviously brings a shitload of offense. I expect him to be a very, very, very good defensive team. That's no question. They're going to be great at defense. Marcus Smart and Jaren Jackson alone make you a top 10 defense. Not to mention that they're pretty good at buying into a system. The team in general, not just those two. So the defense will be great. The offense is weird. I really think their starting lineup is just so weird. The offense of that lineup is going to be so weird. Assuming Steven Adams is the starting 5, you've got him as a non-shooter. You have Jaren, who is a good stretch option, but also can be inconsistent from outside as well. Desmond Bane is a lights-out shooter, so you don't have any worry about him there. Marcus Smart, super inconsistent. Ja Morant, super inconsistent and leans towards bad more than he does good. I would argue Marcus Smart probably leans towards bad more than he does good, but I don't know, maybe not so much as of late. So the offense is very odd. The defense is great. It would take like a true superstar, like officially, unquestionably, definitely a superstar leap from Ja Morant for me to be quite confident that this team is a contender. And as of right now, like the Nuggets, the Lakers, and the Suns, and the Warriors are all teams that I would take over the Memphis Grizzlies in a playoff series as of right now. There might be another one that I'm blanking on. I could see a team like the Dallas Mavericks, if things work out for them, being a better team. And I could see the Grizzlies being anywhere from the 2 seed to the 8 seed, just given what the Western Conference is, as I have harped on multiple times now. So many teams in that conference that can be quite good. Literally 11 different teams that can be 50-win worthy. The conference is just an absolute bloodbath. And I just don't feel great about the Grizzlies being the team that comes out on top of all of that. But that said, I don't know. I don't even know how to put it, because like there's not that much development going on. It's kind of like the guys have become what they are for the most part. We can see what happens in terms of development. Maybe a little bit less shots going to Dillon Brooks and going to everybody else being spread across the team, you know, shows some real differences. But I don't know. I have fear that this team is like kind of closing in on capping out. Luckily, they have, from what I understand, most of their future draft capital. So that gives hope to the potential of bolstering this roster. But as of right now, I feel very weird about them. I don't know what else to say other than I just feel very weird about them. I'm not sure what to make of them, but they will be a good basketball team. A shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and goodbye.